Xin chào tất cả mọi người, Tân Tích học đây và đây sẽ là một cái bộ series về podcast về chủ đề Proptech hay còn gọi là bất động sản công nghệ, nơi mà mình sẽ mời những người founder của những công ty công nghệ bất động sản để có thể chia sẻ về kinh nghiệm cũng như là những câu chuyện của họ. Rồi thì mời các bạn cùng đón xem.
Hey, Christy.
Hi, Sunny.
Hey, this is like the second episode of the podcast where I interview uh, real estate founders. So first of all, can you introduce yourself so like the viewer know who you are and what you are doing?
Absolutely. Hello, everybody. My name is Christy DeLuise. I am the co-owner of Next Key Collective. We're a real estate investment company. We focus on wholesale deals, meaning non-traditional real estate sales that help investors buy more of what they're looking for and help wholesalers, who are the main conduit for getting the deals. We help them move more of their deals. So
Mm,
that's the crux of who I am. In terms of my background, where I started out, I have a background in technology and user experience. I worked for JP Morgan for 10 years in as a VP UX strategist and shifted over into real estate investing and technology about 3 years ago when my husband and I also moved from New York to Florida. So happy to expand on any of that, but that's
yep.
kind of like the elevator pitch.
Mm. So you start as like a you start in a not really related to real estate before, like when you work at JP Morgan. So what is the main motivation that allow you to switch from wanting to real estate?
Yeah, so that opens up a whole can of worms. That is, in fact, the story of COVID and how COVID affected our lives of, many people, many New Yorkers, many people, I mean, nationwide. So prior to COVID, I was going into the office 4 days a week, and Fridays I would work from home. I had an international call that I had to make early. So that was already, remote was already something that was slightly integrated into my work demeanor. I had focused on helping investors and advisors and bankers who are the internal operations folks at JP Morgan have better software. So that meant it was really things that help people manage their money. So we're not client facing at first. We're building tools for the internal the internal teams. Then I shifted over to working on the credit card and checking account side. So I became customer facing, meaning I was actually helping build the website and the app.
Mm.
We were working on creating innovative experiences that helped customers figure out exactly what Chase product best fit their needs. So was it a Chase Sapphire Preferred? Was it a checking account? Did they have a kid? And was it something for Chase First Banking? So how could we use technology to apply intelligent learning about the customer behavior into product selection and then influencing them? So it had like a marketing component, influencing them to purchase or get that product, and what kind of support could we provide. So I was doing that. I loved the role. I loved my team. However, once COVID hit, everything shifted remote, and I was operating for quite a bit of time doing that effectively. Um, Come mid 2022, John and I wanted to take a trip. It was our first wedding
Mm.
anniversary. So my aunt and uncle had moved down to Florida, and we figured why not just go travel down there and see what that's like, maybe take an extended trip working remote. And we did just that. We drove down, we took the car, did a 18-hour drive. We stopped over in Savannah, Georgia, and Charleston. Beautiful, beautiful places. Got to experience some of the USA, which I would highly recommend to anybody to take kind of a road trip down the coast or across the the States. It's wonderful. It's a great experience. So we did that, and then we got to a little Airbnb, fell in love with the area called Delray Beach. And I just thought to myself, well, how, like, I have this job that is very demanding. It's a lot of hustle and bustle. I'm working remote from my basement. How do I make something like this a reality where the lifestyle is totally different? You're living amongst palm trees and the beach. You're kind of a little bit slowed emotionally and mentally versus that hustle and bustle of New York. And so we started exploring. And what I learned was by going on YouTube was there is a lot of different outlets for people exploring entrepreneurial opportunities in real estate investing. And real estate was a way for a lot of people to not only gain properties in locations that they might find more desirable, but also build their future. So grow their wealth, invest in something that's going to be more sustainable long term because real estate has had one of the best track records of building long-term wealth for people through appreciation and also cash flow. So we did a little bit more digging and I realized that let's get a rental property. Let John and I discussed it, and we figured that we would want to do something down in Delray or Boca. We wound up getting some real estate agents and found our first rental property right in Boca. Our strategy that we decided to use was renting to college students. So we wound up moving into that apartment for a short period of time just to experience it, enjoy the weather, and then since have rented out to college students. And now we've um, done one full cycle with two boys who have graduated, and it was a fantastic experience. We're now looking for new tenants. Within that time, I was also just trying to push the boundaries of where we can overlap real estate, technology, these different types of deals that I was stumbling upon. Non-traditional deals are things that you don't necessarily get with a real estate agent. You have to work with either an agent or with a seller to craft terms. And we could go a little bit more into that later, but different things that are attractive for investors. So I was learning about this, trying to figure out how we could apply that to ourselves. And then, yeah, what wound up going through an entire business creation model and eventually wound up leaving JP Morgan to pursue that.
Mm.
Oh, yeah, that is the story. That is
Yeah.
how we ended up in Florida, and that's how we ended up as Next Key Collective.
Yeah, that's a really interesting like story. So with that transition, like both from New York to Florida and from like working in the bank to like working in real estate, what's like the biggest challenge that like you faced initially, and how did you and John manage to overcome that?
Hmm. I would say that there are a few key challenges, two of which stand out to me the strongest. So I would say that first and foremost, it is learning the business knowledge. So obviously coming from a background where I was not focused on real estate and all the, different data points and market learnings that you have, all the different understanding of deal types and terms. You need to develop that, and that takes time and experience. So that was probably number one, just the business knowledge that's required in terms of getting into a new industry. And then secondarily, as an entrepreneur, shifting from going from a corporate, very structured, meeting oriented environment where you do have to work within the bounds of the bank and what their requirements are, the way that they want to run certain processes, systems, the people structures, to going to self-regulating and self-managing and creating your own direction, I mean, because your day becomes wide open, it is up to you to design the experience that's going to drive revenue for you.
Mm.
And I think that those two, that is probably one of the biggest things for entrepreneurs, figuring out how to manage your time and how to manage your day and focus on the revenue growing activities. What are the revenue growing activities? What's going to move the needle? And then how do you apply what you know about the business, about the industry to make those decisions? So I would say those are the two things.
Makes sense. And then you also mentioned that you vision that to combine like technology, real estate, everything into like one big firm. So how do you see technology is changing the real estate market nowadays? That is moving and moving like faster than ever.
Oh, huge. AI is a huge enabler of expediting decision making. I would, I think that in the next few years, we're going to see a huge shift from wholesalers or real estate professionals who are crushing when they apply AI to their different sales funnel and lead gen techniques, as well as different types of, we were just talking about this, data and pricing. So how you're pricing your deals, how you're creating your offers and negotiating terms that we had discussed earlier. How do we understand from a, human behavior perspective? How does the AI understand the human behavior behind what an offer needs to be to a seller, and then have those conversations on a human's behalf, and then allow a human to step in when it's necessary. And that's for like a seller side, getting a deal, mining people who want to sell their properties. And then on the buyer's side, how do we more intelligently match buyers to deals that they're looking for? How do we go based on like cash flow desire? Do we go based on appreciation potential, location, exit strategy? Are they doing things like short-term rentals, mid-term rentals, or do they only want to do long-term rentals? How can we match and marry the person who is looking for a specific type of deal with the specific deal, and then make those things easier? So those are
Mm.
specific examples of how I think that the industry is going to be growing and changing. I think we see different companies like InvestorLift, which is a huge data monolith, applying different types of creative solutions and continuing to advance the technology in the market. And then you also see different companies like Zillow, which are more mainstream, Compass, Keller Williams. They're all applying and leaning heavily into technology, investing into those services, into people, into AI. Um, and then agnostic of kind of the real estate sector, you just kind of you see the investments of people into AI, even looking at the cost of uh or the price of stocks like Intel, or the price of hard drives. I'm not sure if people have looked at the price of hard drives, but or like solid state drives, external drives. I bought a drive back in 2025 that was, I think, 150 bucks. It was a Samsung solid state hard drive. I looked at the same drive the other day, $500. $500. So people are buying these things up so that they have more data availability so that they can store their AI conversations and um, build out any sort of means of creating those communications and whatnot. I also think tokenization is a very big opportunity as well. So looking at decentralization of currency using crypto as a tool for payment and trade becomes a lot more heavily focused. So there's a company called Fractional who's doing different types of fractional investing. They're not necessarily using crypto for that, but they're allowing investors to come in and say, okay, I want a portion of this deal. I want a portion of like I'm going to get portion A, portion B, and portion C, and we're all going to invest together. And then it allows people to like raise funds. So that's not necessarily the portion where it's crypto focused, but it is creating more of a crowdsourced, decentralized methodology of investing.
Yep.
So yeah,
So
lots.
okay, that's an interesting. So for you personally, for example, like on a trend chart, so like for every trend, right? They're gonna be like the trend gonna going up, 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 and people is like talking a lot about it. People is like the news, like everywhere's mentioning about it, right? And then once it's reached the highest spot, it's gonna start going down, going down. It's become like the normal standard. So where do you think like is the AI in real estate specifically uh like lie on that trend, if that makes sense?
I mean, in terms of the bell curve, I don't think we're ever going to see, just because of the nature of AI and what it is, I don't think we're going to see a full-on bell curve here. I
Mm,
think we're going to see more of a flattening and a leveling where it becomes more mainstream and it remains heavily in talk and trend in popularity because there's so many different ways to use and apply it. So it's just going to be a conversation around, well, how can I use AI differently? What are people doing that's creating different types of features, leveraging Claude differently, the next bot, the next agent? How are we leveling up? To some extent, that might fall down a little bit just because we might reach a point where there's not, I don't know. It all really depends. There's infinite amounts to innovate, right?
yep, that's right.
So as much as we can innovate and as much as we can see our future differently and as much as we can leverage AI as a tool, that's as much as it will stay on trend, is my belief.
Yep. And would you say like we are still pretty early in terms of like applying AI to the real estate industry right now?
Yes, I think so. You have to consider that real estate is a ubiquitous term. So we're not just talking about California, Florida, Texas, metros, yeah, Arizona. We're talking about Central America, Middle America. We're talking about Ohio. And a lot of those areas don't have the same exposure through education systems or access to the technology as people in metros might. So where we're seeing a huge adoption and advancements in us in technology ourselves, we're bombarded with constant content around who's doing what with AI. I think a lot of people are still very behind. They're hesitant, they're fearful, they don't want to use it, just because you have to look at it in the same way that different types of technology and industrial revolutions happen. People will not want to adopt it and they will fall behind. And those are the people who won't adapt and who will struggle. The people who will adopt and adapt will thrive and grow. But then you have different bands of adapters and adopters, people who are just like kind of dabbling and playing and using it for their own maybe personal experience, ask it questions, use it instead of Google. Then you have people who are going a little bit deeper, using it for messaging and creating different types of maybe invitations for their personal use. Maybe they're using it a little bit more utilitarian, like thinking about like a party planning. Maybe they're using it for image generation. Then you have people who are creating content schedules and starting to use it for marketing purposes, and that's getting a little bit deeper on how do I apply AI into my business. And then you have people who are going full on agents and they're creating different types of voice chats and responders, which go back and forth and provide real, like human-like answers and support to leads that help solve problems within businesses. And then I think even further, you just have the agents that are kind of more more self-running and self-learning, that's kind of like the far end. So you have all these different levels that people can kind of plug and play. And I think each person has to go through their own round of education in order to advance through that or not.
Okay, that makes sense. And this one is like for the tech student overall. So right now, like like the tech industry is having like a lot of like people telling that CS market is like saturated, all that stuff. So as like a co-owner and also the one who's like be responsible for hiring like the most, how what kind of qualification do you look for in a technology candidate that that you are willing to hire for your real estate firm in overall, yeah?
The first thing is not a technology aspect, actually. It is the willingness to learn and grow and apply yourself and be present within the company. That in itself is talent or skills, and technology is something you can learn over time, but willingness, growth mindset, those are not easy things to learn. And if you come in yourself eager and just hungry to get in there and accountable, be accountable, be responsible, be present, be take initiative. Those are the things that leaders really want to see, because that allows us to depend on the people that we're bringing on. Where I feel like in this world, there's a lot of fleetingness, a lot of ghosting going on, a lot of just non-communication, despite the ability to communicate so easily with one another. I think that that's the number one thing that I'm going to hire for. Secondarily, I'm looking for people who have skills that signal that they have a growth mindset or that they have a pulse on the industry. So are they using different tools like N8N? Do they know about CRMs for specifically like real estate industries? Do they know about Go High Level? Do they know about other tools? What kind of databases do they use? So I'm looking at like skills in different types of AI focused areas that people might not learn specifically in college. And then I'm looking for speed. So understanding the complexity of problems that I'm sharing or projects that I'm sharing, the ability to comprehend and execute on those things is very, very important. So like looking at a world problem yourself and then going through the steps of creating a project around it, self-starting is a huge way for people to kind of work through and advance and develop those skills.
Interesting. So last question, like so a lot of like viewer from this channel is like college student. So do you have like any like advice overall to them? Maybe someone who want to break into real estate or someone who want to use technology to improve the real estate industry. Like overall, do you have any like final advice for them? Yeah.
I mean, that's tough, Sunny. There's so much. Well, first of all, I'll do a shameless plug here. Come talk to us at NextKey. We have a lot of different roles in our real estate investment company. We have anything from technology, we have sales, we have marketing, social media. Sunny's heading up the AI agent and chatbot for our company, looking at the entire services end to end. We have UX positions. And then we're also developing a consultancy or agency arm, which is going to be producing solutions for small businesses. So there's a lot of different opportunity here. So that's a little shameless plug as a recommendation. And then secondarily, I think for college students, most importantly, don't just stay within your scope of college. Do internships, do projects, take on free work, support a local business, do put yourself out there. And just because you're not getting compensated with money, you're getting compensated with knowledge, skills, getting immersed in how a company structure works, how to be accountable, how to be responsible, how to be on time, how to communicate with people, both from like a timeliness perspective and follow-up perspective, and also your verbal skills, verbal and written skills. All of these things are important. So that's my probably biggest piece of advice, other than coming to join Nextkey.
Mhm.
It is going outside of the college to get some experience.
Yep. Yeah, thank you. So for everyone who watching this podcast, so if you have any question for either me or Christy, you can leave in the comment, and then yeah, like I'll forward that to Christy if you have any question. And
That
thanks so much for listening.
there is one more thing that I'd love to share
Yep.
that we didn't quite hit on. I think it's very important to note that there are a few different paths as you're coming through college that you can go into. You can either go into, and we've talked about this pretty extensively, Sunny. You can go into corporate, or you can go into entrepreneurship, or you can go into both. When I went into corporate, I did not have exposure to entrepreneurship, and I didn't necessarily see it as an option. So it was the path that I followed. Happy I did. I loved it. And I got so much experience out of it. And it also prepared me for what I needed to do in a lot of cases in Next Key Collective. However, when transitioning, I didn't just jump into opening my own business. We actually did work with other, we joined a coaching program. So we joined a different type of mentorship group. And then we wound up working with a different company for a period of time in order to get our skills, understand all the ins and outs of the industry, develop different types of systems and contribute that way. So we didn't just go from A to Z. Uh, what I do recommend is try to do that side hustle. Even if you're going to go to corporate, if you're interested in entrepreneurship to any extent, try to do a little side project or a side hustle. And that kind of goes in the same vein as don't just stay with college, do something on the side that makes you happy that you can contribute to.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, guys.